Greetings and welcome. This is RPMMO Radio. I will be one of your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, and of course with me as always are the two ladies, Sib and Jazz. Ladies, it's good to be back.
Hello.
Hello.
It's been a crazy time since we last spoke to you. There's been flus, there's been family problems. I think there was probably a flood somewhere. Definitely some ice storms for people on the coast. Thankfully, none of that affected us except for the first few of them. But boy, is it glad to kind of get back into our rhythm and get back into the show before, of course, the end of the year. In which case, we've only got one show after this one, and that will be next week. So, yeah, we're glad to be here. I hope you're glad to be here with us, too. Because if you're not, it'd be a weird reason to tune in. So, we've got a couple new things. One of them is I am trying a new mic. We also have a giant screen between me and Sib. So hopefully, once and for fucking all, we can stop with the having to worry about how high or how low one of us speaks and you guys hearing the constant echoing and all this bullshit that we've been dealing with pretty much for, what has it been now, almost a year?
Yeah.
Figures 2 episodes before we stop for the year, we finally get that all taken care of.
Yeah, and me and Jazz both know Ashton loves to hear himself talk.
Yeah, I just don't like to hear myself talk twice a split second after the other thing I just said. That drives me out of my friggin' mind. So, of course, anybody listening to us, we appreciate you tuning in at twitch.tv/RPMMO Radio. We usually do it live every Saturday at 7. This is just, we missed last weekend because of some family problems. I also had the flu, and I sounded like this. It was awful. I could barely talk. I lost my voice. I was blowing my nose every 3 seconds. You trust me, you did not want to have to listen to a show that sounded like what we would have had to put out. It would have been just god-awful. So, if you are listening to us live and you always want to listen to it later, you can always catch us on iTunes or Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, where we host it at, of course. Give us a like, give us a subscribe there. We appreciate you. If you're watching us on Twitch live, or even if you're not, go ahead and follow us there. You'll get updates that if we ever stream anything and anytime we do a show. So all that stuff is greatly appreciated. Your typical follow, like, subscribe, all that good, fun stuff that you're almost required to do because if you're like me, you just forget to do it, and then you never see the show again.
Yep.
Yeah. Which apparently is not productive for podcasting. Also, we are, of course, a call-in show, so if you want to go to rpmmoradio.com/Discord and join our Discord server, you can just jump on there, hop into our caller waiting room, and we'll be able to get you and actually bring you on live to the show. If you've got any comments, concerns, things you want to talk about, things even in the past shows, if there's something that we've come up to and you had something you wanted to say. Unlike some places, we actually welcome that. A lot of shows and radio stuff, they don't want you to bring up stuff that's already happened in the past, but you know what? Roleplay is always about bringing up stuff from the past, kind of like being married. Remember that thing you said to me 5 years ago when I put on those pants and asked you how I look? Mm-hmm. Not that that's ever happened to me.
Uh-huh.
You look wonderful today, sweetie. Wonderful.
Of course I do.
I've got my Dragon Ball shirt. She's got her Boba Fett shirt.
Yeah.
We're made to be together. So, I think that's about all the house cleaning crap. Let's see here. Today we're going to talk about cliques. Not the kind like you do with the dog whisperer to get your dog to not shit on the ground, but the French kind, the cliques, the cliques, the cliqueries, which almost sounds like lizard genitalia again, bringing human Floyd back into it. Oh, and speaking of human Floyd, I actually forgot to put this on here. rphq.org has actually started a new series, which I'm not prepared to talk about with with what it actually was called. It was done by one of our callers who has called the show before, Mikey, who's associated with RPHQ, and I'm only dragging it out because I am totally not looking it up at the moment at all.
At all.
No, but it's basically he's interviewing people from ESO. We actually had the honor of being three of which that he would do. We don't know when that's going to run, but if you go to rphq.org, or if you're in ESO, or even if you just want to hear people, his first person, of course, was the Human Floyd, which is what brought me to that. He interviewed that, and I listened to it. It sounded good. I had a lot of fun doing it. I don't know. I didn't really hear about what you guys all thought, and you guys have a good time with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. He made me laugh.
Yeah, he's a pretty funny guy.
I like anybody that makes me laugh.
Yeah, that's how we got together. But no, it was a lot of fun. So yeah, check that out at rphq.org. There's a couple other places I think they have it at. It's or I think it's on their YouTube channel. So YouTube, look up RPHQ. It should be on there if I'm remembering right, because I know they do a lot of the video stuff. There's probably a podcast of it out there somewhere. But again, I was totally not prepared. I completely forgot to put it on there. So whatever. So with that done, what have we? I know it's been, like I said, it's been a crazy, shitty time period this last 3 weeks. I know Sib's pretty much just been out of it. Haven't you?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I don't
been...
think you even had a chance to almost log into an MMO.
No.
In like the last 2 weeks for sure.
No, I last night I actually got to log in, but I was checking out WoW because my brother plays, and we just recently lost his wife.
Yeah.
About a week and a half ago, and yeah, so I've been doing a lot of family stuff. Haven't been in any game.
So, she's barely been home.
Yeah, but I'm back now and slowly starting to get back into my routine here at the house and trying to get back into games. So I should be around a lot more.
Yeah, which I look forward to. But Jez, I know, has been in her own crazy way, what with birthdays and whatnot, which looked like a lot of fun. I didn't get a piece of cake, by the way, which you know, I'm not saying that I wanted one. It would have been nice if you had offered.
Yeah, you were gonna drive all this way.
No, you were, obviously. I mean, you're gonna come to me, clearly, woman. Bring me cake. Nothing at all.
No,
I think
man, I caught you guys both. What you guys need a pot of coffee or something, or a pot of pot.
I have just been running nonstop for 2 weeks, and I'm so tired. I can't wait for Christmas to be over.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, Jazz. It's not stressful or anything like that. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. People want snow, you know.
We finally did get some snow here, so
fuck those people. If you want snow and you pray for it or something like that, screw you. People have to work in that shit, you selfish prick. Anyway, so what have you been doing in RP, Jazz?
Well, one of the things that I've been doing here, obviously, when we started the whole notes thing, that was a while back. But the first thing that I had put down was that I'd been working on RP again and going back to the Rift, going back to Riften, and trying to pull new folks into interactions. With my character essentially always in Sojoris's sphere. Now that they're together, she can't flirt or do anything when he's there because she respects him. So, not being able to use flirt to drag people in, which, let's be honest, works fantastically.
Men are weak.
It's much harder, but I have had more luck, actually. I have drug a couple more people into the guild, brought them in from other guilds that I was in, and really tried to establish Cial again. and we've had some RP within the guild, and that has been fun. Ciel's been developing. She had an RP battle here last week.
Oh, that was that comment I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody got their ass whipped, didn't they?
Yeah. Ciel is usually fine, but you start attacking her relationships or people that she cares about, or her loyalties, because she doesn't really know Ile that well, but Ile is a person of power within the guild, and thus she must be protected. And this guy was mouthing off to her and just being a general pain in the ass, and she gave him more than one warning, and then he turned on her and started being nasty to her, and she was like, yep, that's it, there's my line. And she was already in a bad mood from something else that had happened, and so they wouldn't let her fight him inside, so they went outside, and he was all orc, rawr, I'm gonna kick your ass, you little thing. And I rolled fantastically. Actually, I didn't roll fantastically. I got a 13 and a 14, but he rolled really badly. So that was the end.
You don't have to roll fantastically. You just have to roll better than the other fucker.
And I did roll much better than he did. So he got stabbed between the legs, and he got stabbed in his thigh. So he got a sword cut across his femoral artery, and he got stabbed right in his junk. He lost a testicle, and almost his life, but there was a healer.
That's why Malakath gave him 2, maybe 3.
Yep. So, he wasn't prepared for her to go low. Most people aren't, but that is what she does with tall people. Why try to go for the face and the neck when you can just go for the femoral artery? That's where your, height puts you anyway. So, work with your strengths. So.
Yeah. Orc versus a little wood elf Bosmer. Yeah. Cover the little. She's like right there at the punchy, stabby zone.
Yeah, and it's funny because usually when she spars with people, she doesn't use her blades, and she gave him every opportunity. She was like, "You sure you want to do this? You sure you want to do this? Because I will kill you if I wear my blades."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm not afraid of you," and pounding his chest.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you're gonna die. Just so you
played
know.
Played the orc bit properly.
Yes,
he's not gonna back down.
Young, stupid. Orc boy.
And Kishmis asked whatever happened to no low blows. What happened, Kishmis? Women happened to combat. That's what happened. That goes right out the door when you're fighting a chick. You just got to know it's coming.
Yeah, they're going to go. She goes for what works. So, yeah. And, and even if you're wearing armor, where do you not have armor? So.
Yep. Typically, it's just the cod piece, maybe.
Yeah.
Some leather.
So if you get under the cod piece, it's easy pickings. And so she just slid between his legs, basically, and stab slice. And
that's what she said.
Yep. She had no intention of letting him live. And the only reason she stopped is because one of the healers was like, he's just a kid. And she paused, and she was like, okay, I'll let him live. I'll stop. Plus, he didn't want his tune to die. And I was like, okay, well, then
right.
He better apologize right hasty, because if he doesn't, she is going to kill him.
He's going to keep on going. Someone's going to have to, pull her off of him.
Yep, she was beyond angry. And the thing is that she doesn't show anger, so she was just cold. She had gone completely cold, and everyone was a little bit,
Well, yeah,
because
it doesn't... Well, especially because, and it was that was a guild member too, right? Yeah. So, and it doesn't often happen.
He's not actually a guild member. He was the guard of one of the guild members. He's part of this other guy's house. He's not part of
Right. I get you now. Yeah, but still,
she had absolutely no loyalty to him whatsoever. So
yeah, so there's no reason to back off, especially if you keep pushing it.
Yeah, just like, no, okay, you're gonna die.
Now I kill you.
Yes. Now I kill you. And now she regrets it because she's let people see that side of her, and she's waiting for some of the other assassin types to be like, that was stupid.
You can't take put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Sweet little Sia, who's just supposed to be kind of silly and a little bit demented and not very smart, suddenly got revealed as what she is, which is a cold-blooded killer. So she was just like, uh-oh, whoops.
I got angry. I got very, very angry. Yeah, that's cool. So everything else, all that stuff is going well with the guild and the weekly stuff that you guys have been doing. I've been out of the loop too with Sib, so I'm able to get on sometimes, but I've not been able to actually keep track of most of anything. But like the weekly guild stuff still going well.
Yeah, I have been in several other guilds, most of which are the one guy that joined was somebody from another guild of mine that had just gone very, very quiet.
Basically died.
Yeah, it basically died. It wasn't anybody's fault. It was just everybody kind of moved on to go do other things, and people got busy. And
the holiday lull, maybe.
Well, probably the holiday lull, but also just it had already been dead. So the holiday lull just kind of
that's the final nail in the coffin at that point. Yeah, if your guild's already going slow and the holidays hit, you're gone. You're out of there. There's just no.
Yep.
Especially if you don't have a leader and the officers to help keep it pumping. Chest compressions until the first of the year comes through.
And and the reality is, if some of these people log back in, it was an assassin guild, so it could still come back to life, obviously, when the holidays are over.
Right.
I hope it does. But for now, he joined the guild so he could have at least a silly connection with other RPers.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with that.
See if there's anything going on that he can join in on and that kind of thing. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
And another guild that I'm in is just not as productive as I thought it would be, and I'm not really sure what's going to happen with that. So I may be down 2 RP guilds here soon.
Yeah,
so.
Well,
but
they kind of coming. That's the good thing about something like ESO and some of the bigger games. They come and go, but there's always something to replace it with that you may not have heard before.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't make any decisions for guilds until after the holiday hell. So come January, end of January, if it's still staggering, I'll probably just
wish them well.
Yeah. Say thanks for the fish. I gotta go, guys. So, but if that doesn't happen and they come back to life, then we'll be fine.
Yeah.
So your turn.
All right. So I don't even remember when, I ran another event. I've been trying to do them with the servants of I always say temple because I think that's what they were, excuse me, burping the microphone. Temple when we first joined them, but it's actually the tribunal. And it's SOT either way, so I guess that's probably doesn't really matter. But anyway, I ran an event there based off of some of the lore podcast things that I had heard. This one was fun. I will say, don't be mentally handicapped and be a Dunmer. It doesn't end well for you. There's not a lot of sympathy for the mentally ill in Dunmer society. It doesn't go well for you. But basically what it was, I ran it as there was the merchants guilds were complaining that some of their people seemed to be their members were disappearing around a certain area. They were supposed to travel through, not even stop in, but they would just disappear. So they were asked to investigate for the ordination. So we went there, and of course, actually Kishmish in the chat, Roger was the one kind of running the whole thing since he's the high ordinator, and it's his choice to lead pretty much, unless he wants to pass it off. And they come out of they do a portal, they come out, and of course there's an old Dunmer woman putting her skivvies up on a clothesline, and they're asking if they know anything, and she's like, oh yeah, there's a somebody moved in a couple months ago. We never see him except for at night, and we know he's got servants because we see them in the windows or saw them before he blacked out all the windows, but he only comes out at night, and there's rumors and things like that, but we never see anybody but him come get supplies. So they of course, new guy, sounds like a vampire. So they go and knock on his door, and unfortunately someone forgot to do the cast and find out if there's any magic in there, and they went headlong right into a ruin that shocked the shit out of the both of them. So then they knew they had the right place, if nothing else. But in the end, they broke down that stuff, got in there, and it was basically just a horror show. The people weren't actually zombies. They were almost like they were pieced together, Frankenstein, and there was just nothing. They were moving around, they were weeping and sobbing, but there was just nothing in their eyes. They were basically just, reanimated corpses. Yeah. There was no soul there, because what he was trying to do was create immortality and bring people back, but without necromantic magic, without magicka and things like that. He was doing it all through science. He was, just full-on Dr. Frankensteining everything. What made him special, though, was the reason he did this was because he heard the voices of the Dunmer gods, Elmsivi, or the Three. He thought in his head they were telling him to do this, so he thought he was fully in the right. In fact, when they finally actually broke down his door and caught him, he wasn't even like scared. He's like, "Oh, good, you're here. They said that you would come eventually. Help me with this." It didn't go well for him after that either. He thought he was doing their will. He thought, in the name of his gods, that he was gonna bring everything back. Right up until they started burning all his journals and ledgers and stuff, and then of course they had to kill all the walking, meat bags that had no souls and nothing in them anymore. But it didn't end well for him, I'll say that. I think, if I remember right, Roger, they questioned him for a time, and of course that's basically what he had done, was blasphemy and, and heresy and all of the highest order. Yeah, so he poured hot water down his throat, because he's a sadistic bastard, and then used a freezing spell and froze it in his esophagus. Because, again, he's a sadistic bastard, which is why I love him. He's a good guy.
Sounds like somebody you'd like.
Yeah, I know, right? It's horrible, but yeah. So it was actually a lot of fun. I always trying to keep things a little different. It's not a lot of times you come across somebody that actually thinks they're talking to gods. That obviously, of course, they aren't, but they're actually. I was just curious to see if mental illness, what that would do, and turns out, not a lot of sympathy there for it.
Yeah, no, not usually.
That's a good sign, too, because if they had been like, "Oh, but he's sick," it's like, okay, see, now someone's mixing. You do that in real life, right up until they start, killing people and trying to sew them together. And even then, you're still like, okay, well, I get it, he's sick, but let's lock that son of a bitch away in somewhere he'll never be seen again.
Yep.
Yeah, there's only so far you can go with that. I actually wanted to ask you something, Sib, because we both, because of her brother, he's I've mentioned before, he plays a lot of World of Warcraft, so we both were doing the 14-day free trial thing, which can't talk to anybody in tells. And for some reason, the one thing I thought was weird is they have like this Pokemon pet mechanic, I guess, in World of Warcraft, like where you can catch animals out there, and then they could like fight each other. For some reason, that's locked on the trial thing, too. Now, I get the tells and the grouping thing because, gold farmers, but
Right, yeah.
But the Pokemon capturing thing, that one's a little baffling to me.
It's probably really popular, and so they want to use it as a way to get people to sub.
Yeah, I guess. I have no idea. It was just really weird. And what's funny is I was thinking, I wonder if I should sub just so I can see what this is all about. It almost works.
What was the question?
I'm getting to it.
Okay. It's like, did I miss it?
No, you didn't.
Okay.
I got off on a tangent, shocker.
I'm a little slow today, so.
Today.
Hey.
Don't throw something at him.
Yeah. She can't. There's a wall now. We got a wall.
Oh, yeah, there's a wall.
I'm going to show. Let's see for anybody watching.
This way.
There is now the wall. Behind that lies Sib.
But now I don't look at him whenever he starts to talk to me, or when I'm talking and he looks over and I see him like I'm saying something wrong. I'll slowly glance at him, but now I don't have to. I can't see him.
Good. Maybe you'll be less worried and you can just talk.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was going to ask you, you'd only got to play a little bit last night. What'd you think? I know what I thought when I've been playing it a little too. So what were you think of it?
It's very old school, like you said. I'm curious to see what it's like the further I go in. I know, like right now, it reminded me of when I first started playing EverQuest 2. Go kill 10 of this, turn it in. Go to kill, go collect this flower, turn it in. But I'm really curious. I've heard so many good things about WoW, so I don't know about the RP stuff because that makes me a little nervous. But if they have a good community, I'm willing to try it.
Yeah.
I know my brother doesn't RP, but I would just play the game to play with him.
Yeah, that's.
But the RP, I'm a little curious about.
Yeah,
so
I will say
we'll
I made a server. I made one character on the server he's on, which is not a roleplay. It's just a PvE server. I did make one on Moon Guard. And
That's hilarious.
I had to make sure because they've unlike every other game we've played in like the last 10 years, Jazz, they've got like the list of servers for one is still like 100 something, and the PvP servers alone, there's like 4 or 5 of them, and that's not counting like PV or not PvP, RP servers, and that's not counting like RP PvP servers. I mean, it's a fucking ridiculous list still for a game that's 13, 14 years old. But I actually did go through, because I made a human character, I did go through, remember when we were talking about Goldshire?
Yeah.
Yeah, another radio podcast, LBR, had said they had actually gone to WoW, and they found out that it wasn't nearly as bad as they had reported on. Apparently, they didn't go to Moonguard because it was exactly what that article had said. I saw the word rape at least 3 or 4 times, and I was just going through doing quests. So, yeah, that is exactly, and it was packed. I mean, think of what you've seen in ESO, Jazz, on like the busiest night in Riften. Okay, double that.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I know
it's
that
insane.
Somebody had told me that there was a lot of roleplay in WoW, and after talking to a couple of people about it, I think, and I said this, and I felt bad after I said it, but I was like, I think we have very different ideas of what roleplay is. And I didn't mean it to sound like...
Well, yeah, and I'm sure there are real role players. Obviously, as Kishmas again says, there's a reason they call it Rapeshire, you know. Yeah. But yeah, I wouldn't consider most of those. They're probably not actual role players like we consider ourselves, or most of anybody that's probably listening to this show would consider themselves either. They're just people there that they call it roleplay. But there's a reason when I use the hashtags for RP and roleplay on some places, it's like, sorry, you can only have the top 10 most recent things because the rest of it is not safe for work content. It like literally just doesn't let you click on the hashtag anymore. So that's one of the reasons it's real hard to get a show where it's actually clean roleplay and actual like character-driven roleplay out there, because the ERP community has pretty much co-opted that, and there's a hell of a lot more of them than there are of us, apparently.
Yeah, there are.
So
people who focus on that are, yeah,
very, very, very lonely. Hey, I'm not saying that they have one of those Asian robotic sex bots, but I'm not saying that they don't have one of those Asian robotic sex bots. That's all I'm not saying. So you think we're gonna have to buy it after 14 days. You think you'll be willing to? You think it's worth plopping down the $20 in the monthly fee, Sib? Where we're at right now?
Can I hold my decision for just...
You've got one whole week.
I probably will, just to play the game.
With your brother,
like I said,
too. Yeah.
So,
I'd be curious, too, just to play it with him, just as...
Yeah. Because I know he does a lot of raiding and stuff, and I'm not a huge raider, but just to be able to spend time, because, with him somehow, that would be, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. Well, shoot, just load him up on a Discord channel and boop, there you go.
Yeah. So I might be willing to do it for that. I don't know. Like I said, the RP, I'll have to get into that and find out for sure if I even want to RP in that
Not
game.
to mention it's 2 separate servers. You have to level 2 different characters since it's separate servers too. What he's on compared to where the role play is actually at.
Well, I don't even have to level a character, really. If I'm just going to role play with it.
I don't know. I guess it depends on the role play scene and where they do it at. Just because, unlike ESO, this one here, if they do it in a zone where it's all level 50 and you're level 4, might be a little difficult to even get there, let alone.
Well, I thought I saw on if you actually purchase the game, it comes with like a level 100 character or something, kind of like EQ2 did.
I think there's something like, I know if you get the most recent expansion, they said it came with that, but of course then you'd be lost as fuck.
Well, yeah, that's true. But if I'm just, like I said, if I'm just role playing on that one, it wouldn't really matter.
True. Well, we'll have to. It'll be interesting to do it because we've never really gone into an old MMO like that, So
I'm not crazy about how it looks. It gives me that Wild Star feel, that really cartoony feel.
That's one of the things I've had a hard time with, the cartoony feel.
We'll have to see.
See if it grows on you, maybe. It runs smooth as hell, but that's also, again, because it's a 12-year-old game.
Yeah, it is pretty too. I think the
it's
colors.
very colorful.
Yeah, I like the colors and I like the characters or the races they have set up. So
yeah. Well, hopefully it'll.
I picked the race that has the hoofs.
What were they? The Niram? I don't know.
No, it starts with a D, but I can't think of what it's called.
Diarrhea. I think you're the diarrhea class.
Diarrhea.
I made Bargnar. Bargnar lives again.
All right. He did make Bargnar, and I was watching him.
He's the dwarviest fucking dwarf that ever dwarfed a dwarven dwarf. So, all right. Well, I was just curious and I know since I didn't know you didn't have any role play, and that's the one thing you've at least had a solid hour and a half to 2 hours last night playing with. I figured I'd get your input on that because I'm curious too. We don't come from a World of Warcraft, history, so. All right. Well, before we get into our main topic, and again, anybody that wants to call in, just join our Discord channel, go into caller waiting room, and we'll get you on here if you want to talk about cliques or anything in the past. We welcome that. But first, of course, we have a word from our sponsor. Wow! Welcome! This is Chef Jacques Leclerc Le Beau Boucher IV, proudly opening my new restaurant, Dat Clique, where we will not serve you anything on our menu because you are beneath us, you American scum. You will, of course, have such amazing food as sautéed mermaid over reduced algae sauce, or refined peanut butter puree spread over brioche bread topped with reduced jam. But you don't get any of this. You could have this, but you will not, because you are not part of that clique. See, only the best of the best are welcome in that clique, and to join, well, that is a secret only you must figure out. But do not let it be said, Chef Le Beau Boucher is not fair. There are some ways you might wiggle your way into our 6-star restaurant. We added the star because we are that great. First, try not being all about yourself. Sure, it's not bad once you are in that clique, but before that, it is selfish. Selfish, I say! Also, much as kissing does not hurt, and loving everything I do with flattering words will not harm you. So come on now, or don't, since you can't get in to that clique restaurant, located in you-know-where if you-know-who says you can come. Au revoir, mon ami. Well, there you go. Yeah. Why do we always have advertisements for things, that people can't go to?
Because you don't tell them no, I suppose.
I mean, if they're gonna give us the money to tell people they can't come to their shitty French restaurant,
that's true.
Fucking French. Am I right, guys? What have they ever done for us? French toast.
We lose half our listeners.
Yeah. I've seen the statistics. So far, not a lot of French people listening to the show. I think we're safe.
I think we're safe.
I think we're good. Oddly enough,
probably alienate others, but let's not make it a challenge, shall we? He might accomplish it.
Strangely enough, shout out to the Philippines and Ireland and the UK, who apparently outside of the US are some of the most people that listen to the show more than any other. No idea why, but welcome.
That's awesome.
The Philippines one surprised the hell out of me, but you know what? We love the Philippines. Nothing against you. Because I don't really know. I really don't know anything about. I literally know nothing about the Philippines to even make a joke.
It's very pretty this time of the year.
Oh yes, it's pretty all the time of the year. I think. I don't think they have other than like the stormy season. I think it's probably just gorgeous. Period.
Mm-hmm. Hey! Don't be bringing facts into that truth, Bob the Truth, or truth the Truth Bob. I don't care if they help to the American resolution.
Mm-hmm.
It's the American resolution. We resolved that. So anyway, cliques. Man, it's kind of a can of worms topic, isn't it, Jess?
It is. It really is, because there are several ways to look at it, and not all cliques are bad, and not all cliques are cliques. I think a lot of people use the word because they think it's a bad thing, and so they'll say they're just a clique and they don't want me. Not, I don't log in enough to be included, or I don't roleplay with anybody but myself and the people that I'm
Whoa. The fact that I log in once a week and you guys don't remember my name and then don't include me, that is on you.
And that is what they think.
It does happen, right, folks.
There.
It's
on head.
Yeah, it's actually happened. And yeah, I mean, yeah.
I have had that conversation. It's like, you have to understand that most of the people don't know you. Well, why not? Because you only log in once a week on a Friday for 2
and then
hours.
and then you only talk to me. So why would they know you? You go off and you play the game, which there's nothing wrong.
No,
but when a roleplay guild, if you don't actually interact with the people in the roleplay guild, of course they're not going to talk to you. They're not going to know who the hell you are.
Exactly.
Yeah, you really have to spend the time to be able to get in, and because one thing with RPers, there are a lot of trolls, and you may start RPing with somebody and not even realize they're a troll till an hour in, and then they start being a total jerk. So
yeah, they string you along, especially in random RP. Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen in the guild, but even that, when there's been people that join guilds to troll, so I mean it.
Yeah, so just
not so far in this one, but I mean, I'm sure it's going to happen eventually. We're going to get somebody to join us who then turns out to be a troll, and we'll have to kick him. But we had that in Silver Circle quite a few times, who joined us and were RPing with one of the people in our guild. He's a wonderful role player. What they meant was he cybers really well.
Right.
And he turned out to be like a raider and an ERPer, but not really a role player. And then when he was bored, he'd go and troll role-playing areas. And once I got screenshots, I was like, I talked to him and I said, okay, is this you? Yeah. Why are you doing that? They annoy me. Okay, you have to leave now.
Yeah, you're making the rest of the guild look bad just because, you
wear our name and you're trolling role players. How did you find out about it? Okay, let's go back. You wear our name.
Yeah. And people don't like trolls, so...
And so they're like, Silver Circle is a roleplay guild that's been around for, 10 years. So when I log on and I get 3 tells, and one of them is, I sent you a screenshot. That's never a nice way for me to log in, and I'm probably not going to be in a very good mood after that.
No, yeah. So so I mean, there's all that too, and we'll peel this onion back a layer at a time. So first, let's go ahead and do the actual Webster's dictionary. What is a clique? And we're just gonna call it clique. I know that there's a couple other ways people pronounce it. We're American, so fuck those people. Yeah. Anyway, so a clique is a small group of people with shared interests or other features in common who spend time together and do not readily allow other players to join them. So, and actually it doesn't say players, but I added that because that's what we're talking about. So
I mean, and really by that definition, role player guilds in general,
each guild is its own clique, yeah.
Yeah. Because they have their own set of circumstances of types of people that they're looking for. And those are the people that are going to get in. And if you don't meet their qualifications, then you're not going to get in. So in and of themselves, role play guilds are a clique of sorts. Unless you actively strive not to be. And even then, you're going to end up with trouble.
Especially, that is one of those things. A role play guild and a general guild don't typically mix all that well. Like a roleplay raider guild kind of thing, where half of them do one thing and half of them do the other. Eventually, it seems like there's always going to be a conflict because, again, like you said with that one guy, you're wearing the tag, and if he starts doing shitty stuff, it reflects badly on your guild sooner or later.
Right. And that's like right now where we have a blended guild. But everyone that joins knows that if you're not friendly to roleplay and I find out that you're trolling or you're being a general ass or you're talking badly about role players, you're out. It's very simple. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to debate it. I'm going to say, do you do this? And you either say yes or no. And if I have proof to the opposite, you're out.
Yeah. Yeah, and as long as you're straightforward and upfront about that.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you're creating a clique, so that makes you a bad person. You're bullying. What you're doing is bullying people.
Yeah,
you're bullying people.
I
You're an adult,
that.
but
I
knew that would get her to speak up.
I'm sorry. When you're an adult, I just don't feel like it's bullying. I feel like I don't know, but it's just bullying is something you do when you're a kid.
Yeah, when you have no power to stop it.
If people have a weakness and you use that weakness against them, in my opinion, trolls are all bullies. They're just adult bullies. They're harassing people because they can, and the game makes them able to be a bully, and you have no recourse. What are you supposed to do? Stopping RPing? I mean, so they're
right. With that. Right. See, that's the thing. Like, I consider when you're bullying someone, it's because you have no real authority or power to stop it. Which in that case, I could kind of see it. Of course, like if there's somebody I know, like at work, that and they're quote unquote bullying me, I can put a stop to that fucker right then and there. One way or the other, I can shut him down. But I also have the tools and the means to just not go near them also too. Yes. So,
and at work, if you have somebody that's your boss who bullies you, then you have a lot less of an option of going against him because you'll lose your job. And if you can't afford to lose your job, then they have a great deal of power. And bullying comes down to power. So perceived or otherwise. Right. So, I mean, like a friend of mine who was passive, who went on AFK, and when she came back, this guy had sent her a whole bunch of very sexually explicit tells and had done things to her tune while she was not there. Now, obviously, it didn't really happen, and she didn't agree to any of this, but she felt violated and then refused to play.
Yeah,
and I'm like, but it was words. I mean, I understood it.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand being a little annoyed. I mean, I get annoyed by words too, but
you can always walk away from it.
Right, and in that case too, you can always say, yeah, that didn't. How many times have we done that in the middle of a role play thing and somebody steps out of line? Yeah, that didn't happen. You didn't just do that because
I'm not. And he cuts your head off. No, he didn't.
No, he didn't. I'm not giving you permission to Yeah, no, you don't have permission to do that. Yeah, sorry.
And they get mad. But no.
Yeah. Okay. So I had to look it up now too. Bully: a person that uses strength or power to harm or intimidate those who are weaker.
Yes.
A superior strength or influence to intimidate.
And right. So it really kind of comes down to how you perceive power and how you give power. And in a game where the devs give you no power to deal with, like, I want to be able to put somebody on ignore and have them vanish from my game.
Like from our what would we most want in a thing?
Right there.
Not just their text. I want them to physically disappear.
I want their tune to physically vanish from my site.
In fact, I want to do that and have their actual person physically vanish from the earth.
Well, that would be nice, but no. I just want them to not be able to do any. And you know what? If they did that, it would cease to be a problem because trolls want attention.
Yeah, and when all those people no longer, and it would work just as well for like raiders and things like that too. When you get those assholes that are like, well, you just don't know what you're doing, blah 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 blah, and you can put them on a whole group of people puts them on block, and then the next one, and sooner or later, that person's got nobody to do anything with because nobody sees that they exist anymore.
Right.
I would
simple solution.
I would even go the other step and say, like some people say, well, people need to know that they're being blocked. No, you know what? Let them think that people are just ignoring them, but they don't even know they exist. I think that's even better.
Well, I can understand from a legal standpoint having to say when I put someone on ignore, saying you have been ignored by,
but you get only that one time.
You get that one notice. And like in EQ, if somebody put you on ignore, all it would say was your text didn't go through for some reason. And if you tried to send them mail, it would say your mail did not go through for some reason. And you didn't have to be a genius to figure out why.
You've been blocked, yo.
But they didn't actually violate anyone's confidentiality with that phrase. And I like that phrase.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't.
Whoop. I clicked a button. Yeah.
No clicking. No.
So anyway,
clicking.
let's go back to cliques because that's a whole nother
right,
show.
right.
Probably. Yeah.
So the clique thing. Well, in a way, we could actually tie that in because, you guys want to start with the bad cliques first because I don't really think all of them are bad. Obviously,
No.
I think some
guilds in and of themselves are good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think some are labeled cliques when it's really just a group of friends that you will welcome anybody in that's of a similar mindset. You just have to be like, "Hi, how are you?" And that's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" Bring them on. That's really all it takes, especially for someone. I know, like the three of us. We're more than happy to talk to. If you'll type back, we'll type to you.
The problem is that even in ESO right now, there are cliques within guilds where they only hand out roleplay XYZ to their friends, and even though you're included, you're not allowed to do anything if you like, my character did this and you roll really well, and they're like, well, let's do this instead because they wanted the actual.
See, and that's just a shitty role player, in my opinion.
It is, and I agree, but there's also, it can get very insidious in the way that a clique can be done within a guild where only certain people get attention from certain people, and although they still include everyone, you're glossed over in the overall inclusion.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll hit up bad cliques first. And the damage it can do.
Yeah, because in Silver Circle we had that, and I would often find my officers sometimes would unintentionally do it. It wasn't on purpose.
Yeah.
I felt that my officers were doing it on accident because we got so used to each other and we didn't know these people, and so we were more likely to turn to each other for roleplay bumps and for, can you do this for me, roll a tune and do this for me, instead of asking for this guy to do it because we don't know if he's going to be cool with having his tune get his ass kicked.
Yeah, or if he would be able to even pull off an NPC or something like that.
Right. So we don't ask people to do that we don't know. So that while still bad, I think, and can have give a feeling of non-inclusion. When you have a group of people that only are ERPing within their little group, and so then they also RP with just their little group, and it slowly starts pushing people away that don't fit into their little RP circle. Those are harder to combat as a guild owner, guild runner, guild leader.
Guild leader. I was like, are you meaning guild leader? It was such a simplistic term. You actually had me baffled for a second.
I was like, what are we supposed to say here?
That's like when I was pregnant and I walked in and I looked at my husband and said, what is this? And I'm pointing at my elbow. I could not remember the name for my elbow. And I understand that's a pregnancy thing.
That's your weenus.
Yeah. And he looked at me and he went, elbow? Thank you. Oh my God. And I talked off, and he's held that over my head ever since because I couldn't even remember. So yeah, that happens to me. But anyway, as a guild leader, when you're trying to deal with officer and the more longer RP'd people within your guild who are excluding people unless they are ERPing with them or unless they have some kind of sexy time, role play with them, how do you deal with that? Because I've always struggled with that. It's hard to point out. You don't really know they're ERPing. It's not like I can slide into their channel and see,
right, into their group that they might be doing, or into their house.
You're guessing that that's what it is because they're always together and they only do
when they're the only two in the same zone for 2 or 3 hours every couple nights a week. Yeah. Right.
And you know that they may just be doing RP.
Yeah, because I know we've done that. I know you and I got accused of that on our characters a lot.
I was like, first of all, he doesn't ERP.
Nope.
Second of all, no. But at the same time, it really doesn't matter if there's ERP. I use that because I see that a lot more now, where if you're ERPing with this guy, then you're okay with all of the roleplay that happens with that person, and you include all of his tunes, and there's all this flurry of roleplay while you're getting to know each other ERP-wise. And the whole, we're new couple, so now we have all this roleplay. And it can be really hard on the people around you because they want to be included and they don't know how, and they don't know what's going on. But as a guild leader, I see it and I'm like, okay, it's starting. Now what do I do? I can't say knock it off because
Right. Well, and I know I
know
there was a time too, and we'll just be, out. We'll air all our old dirty laundry, but there was a time, and it wasn't intentional, but with the officer thing, there was an officer chat, and there came a point where I noticed that a large majority of the talking only happened in officer chat. And of course, and it wasn't about like officer things. And when that happens, of course, then the guild chat is getting ignored. And of course, nobody that's not an officer chat knows that anything's going on. So they're, as far as they're concerned, the guild's not real talkative.
Yes. And I remember when you brought that up to me, and I started paying attention, and I realized you were right.
I was just like, hey, and I wasn't 100. I was like, this is starting to feel like that, and I only caught it because I was doing it myself.
Yes.
And I was like,
because
we were chatting, we were talking, and this and that.
And I remember that was happening at a time when we had like 46 new members, and we didn't know any of these people, and they were all slowly going through the process of joining the guild. And I think as officers and a few of the people, only the upper officer group, because in officer chat we had officers and junior officers, and we had people who were not junior officers, but the one step below, because we had several layers of officers.
I don't remember what it was called.
Yeah, and so we had all of them in officer chat. Well, that was like everybody that we'd been role-playing with for 10 years. So all the new people, though, who were just as good at roleplay, but we didn't know who they were. And remember, we'd had a really huge spat of drama, and I think we were all and we were all just kind of worn out from it. And I understood why we were doing it, but that's when I had the officer meeting, and they argued with me at first, but then after a couple of days, like, you're right, we are doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's just, and those things can't, and it was, that was it. That was in its very definition a clique, and which can be, again, for a good thing, but that had gone towards, it wasn't intentionally bad, but it wasn't doing any good either, because the group, guild officer stuff, I mean, any group in a guild of officers is typically, they have to be tight knit because they have to back each other up, which is perfectly fine. And yes, they are gonna, believe it or not, they do talk about you behind your back because they're kind of required to do so, especially when you're constantly being a thorn and a pain in the ass, but not in the good way. Or if you're taking things in character and out of character. And for anybody on there, this is Fred, but it's in my lap. She's on the camera. That sort of stuff. It can creep up on you. But once everybody knew what was going on, they stopped. But that's one thing I had started. Like I said, I started noticing it. I brought it to your attention to make sure it wasn't just like me. And turns out, we had it slipped into it because it was more comfortable that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that was as cliques go, that was an easy one to kind of fix and break up, because we were officers. It was our responsibility to make sure the guild was doing well.
We policed ourselves. We realized we were doing it, and we stopped. And all of a sudden, the guild RP just kind of exploded, and we all were like,
there we go.
Fault. Yeah. We did this to ourselves this time.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand that, and I think that's why we eventually switched and had a channel just for officers that was outside of the guild, and then we used guild chat for something else. I mean, officer chat for something else, which we do now in ESO as well.
Right, because
So
EQ too, you could make your own chat channel, so it was no big deal.
Yes.
But
so it was easy to do, and because it was just officers, the chances of having someone leave the guild or leave officer that would then not leave was much lower. So because EQ didn't give you very much control, just a little bit, and so it was a pain in the butt. But I think when you see a clique developing and you're not really sure what to do, and you see it start to hurt people or hurt RP, it's really hard to step in and say, okay, what do we do? Because
you're going to piss somebody off, and because it has a very negative connotation. Sorry, I had to put the dog down.
It
has a very negative connotation, even which it really shouldn't. But it's used. I mean, we're almost programmed from like even before we get into role play that a clique is bad. I mean, you watch all those old movies, the Mean Girls, the movies, the Molly Ringwald movies from the 80s and things like that. When there's the Heathers and there's this and that group of people that always, they're the high and mighty, kings and queens of the high school, and they're the bad ones. So I mean, it's
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Running a guild is a bit like junior high, and so when we look back, when we deal with junior high and you get now, and it's really roughly the same thing. You're dealing with the same issues. Everybody wants to be the cool kid, and there's always this little group of cool kids, and you want to be part of those cool kids, but only if you are in somebody's pants or you are involved in their very synchronous role play. And you start to feel like there's nothing you can do to get noticed. And because how can I put this? Many people only read so fast and they only type so fast.
Right.
And so they're paying attention to the people that they're ERPing with, the people that they're role playing with on an intimate level. And they miss what people are saying to them that don't matter to them because they're not paying us. And it's not like they're doing it on purpose. I'm going to ignore this person today. It's not like that. But
right.
You're more likely to ignore someone that you don't really know really well than you are that person that you really are all in snuggly warm place with your privates pressed together and you like that. So even if it's digital privates, it really doesn't matter because in the end it all comes down to that. And that's a hard thing to get past. And it's really hard to point it out because then, like you said, people are like, so you think that I'm doing this? And it's like, well, I don't think you're doing it on purpose, but it is something that you need to pay attention to. When you are turning down role play because they don't fit into your neat little square of what you want for attention, you really need to take
square.
a look at that.
We'll use that phrase.
Yeah. And I think we all do it. Everybody does it. If you catch yourself doing it, it's part and part.
I was referring to the fact that it wasn't going to be so much a square as sort of a slit-like substance.
Stop. Oh
what? I'm just saying, given what you're talking about.
Oh, you are very
It's a vagina.
Yes. Vagina RP. We'll call it that instead of ERP. We'll call it digital vagina. How about that?
The vag.
The veg.
Oh, wow. Anyway.
That fits with our comments on Twitch.
That escalated quickly.
Yeah, right.
Cersei's talking about being naughty.
Yeah, naughty Christmas gifts. Anyway, so, yeah, and like we were saying, it's almost programmed, and there really can be bad cliques, bad groups of people and even if it's not always roleplay, like I know I have people that I prefer to roleplay with. I'm comfortable with them. I like roleplaying with them. They're interesting. They're creative. But at the same, and that's I think most people have their core, like their core group of people that they like to roleplay with,
And that is a clique, but it's not a bad
right.
clique.
But it doesn't have to be exclusive to that. Like, just like in real life, you've got your friends, then there's the people you work with, and then there's people that through your other friends, then there's family members who, you don't just shun all of them. But it's the same thing with roleplay. If you start to do that, like purposely, and we have seen it. I've seen people that like they have their core group, and it's a clique in a bad way. Like they literally will just not even if somebody sends like, hey, like how's it going? They literally will just ignore the emotes. They'll ignore everything they're saying. The other people in the world don't exist, even though they're out in public. They're not willing to allow anybody into their bubble because it might change the dynamic or. In the case of the more insidious people, which we've talked about before, they don't want to let other strong role players or strong people into their group because they're the queen bee or the king. What's the version of a king? What's a king bee?
Well, king bee is a worker bee.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it's just a worker bee, or the queen bee or the hornet, because hornets are assholes no matter what.
Yes, there you go.
Male or female hornets are dicks.
Alpha wolf, which doesn't really exist. You can say like queen bee or alpha wolf. There you go.
But yeah, so they don't want to get they create that clique of people because I know in Jazz, I know in Sib both actually, and so does Strafe. He knows exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. Of just people that they get that almost cult following, which those cult followings, which we've talked about before, those are the worst of the worst kind of cliques. I mean, where they have just one or two people just have this angry hold on everything that goes on, to the point where we've seen them throw people under the bus. They'll come up with a story idea, and it's a bad one, and they may not, whether they know it's a bad one or not, they don't realize it up front. They'll have somebody else start it, and then when it gets undone, or it's like, you can't do that, you didn't even ask permission, it's all blamed on that person, and the one that really thought of it, the Lex Luthor behind the whole thing, goes away scot-free. And that's probably some of the worst of the bad, bad of the bad when it comes to cliques. You don't want to, you don't want to get stuck in that. And part of that comes with, don't be, guys, don't be pulled around by your virtual dick. You're not going to hook up with these chicks. It's
if
just not
chicks.
Right. Yeah. If you're not going to hook up with these people, probably because it may not be a chick, and that's the reason it's never going to happen, but they'll still, pull you around by that. So,
there are an amazing number of people who go through all the time they spend in game, geeking, digital, whatever. And
just be blunt.
I'm trying to be nice here.
Stop being nice. If people want nice, they'll. There's not really a whole lot of other RP podcasts. They'll make one themselves. We'll call it the Super Nice Happy Hour.
I think that there's a line. There's people who enjoy ERP when it has a place, and then there's people who enjoy ERP because they have nothing better to do. And then there's people who enjoy ERP because they literally have nothing else going on in their life.
And it's the one thing that they can absolutely hold and control over other people.
Yes.
And that's when it creates, we've called it a cult following, but really it is in the worst sense, it's a clique.
It's the C word. It's C word, and it's not clique. It's a C following, and it's not clique. And I would say the majority of the time it's usually run by females, but not always. Do see some
there's some gigolos that do it. Yeah.
There are some, and I have certainly met them, but usually I found that most guys that are gigolos and openly just seeking ERP tend to be pretty harmless.
Which is weird. It's the exact opposite of what you're expecting too.
Yeah.
Because that's not what like in the real world, it's the opposite of that. They're the worst of the worst.
They're the worst of the worst, but in games and in RP, they're generally not possessive. They're generally not trying to control everyone through their dick. It does happen, and I've certainly met a few, but I would say overall it doesn't happen that way. But when it's actually a female, played by a female, I see a lot more of that psychosis than I do otherwise. And I've never, as I am a woman, and I'm a little bit ashamed of that fact that far too many women use their
femininity.
No. It's a part of femininity.
Their vag,
their digital vagina to manipulate people around them into doing what they want. And, I'll do the hoochie coochie with you if you swear that you will not have hoochie coochie with anyone else.
With anybody else, yeah.
And all of your tunes are mine. And by the way, bring all your friends, and then I'll quietly do them too. And it's, in my opinion, those are the worst kinds of cliques because it creates so much anger and drama.
Yeah. Well, we actually have a caller on the line too.
Oh, do we?
Yes, we do.
Been watching other things. So I'll have to
you're all right. And let's see if I can. There we go. We have Kishmis on the line, who is actually Roger. I'm giving it a second for it to catch up, for him to mute all his stuff there, because it's a weird thing to be drugged down and then and put live on the air. So he has a couple things to say, and we'll go ahead and bring him on there. And Kishmis. Oh, Jazz put herself in the caller waiting room. There's Rip. Jazz again. Good timing, Jazz.
Whoops. Shut up.
So, Kishmis, welcome to the show.
Channels.
Good to have you here, man.
Thank you for having me, my dude.
Appreciate it. So what you got?
Well, I got clickety clicks, man, as the title says.
But really, got a really good. I'm sure you've got some pretty experiences with them, both good and bad at this point.
Oh, always good and bad. Doesn't matter where you go. There's going to be some sort of balance, with cliques. Most recently, this is mainly this guild, the guild we're both in, Servants of the Tribunal. There's some good cliques, there's some bad cliques. Really, the good cliques are the ones that have, like, all the ordinators together and, like, having drinking games, and sometimes a clergy would come down. And then when there's a guest that comes into the abbey, then we're just kind of like, we don't want to deal with him, which turns a good clique into a bad clique because we're not involving them.
Right.
Which is kind of sad sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because, it's all well and good, and then somebody new comes in. Of course, sometimes some of the rules, and that's one of those things, too. It depends. It kind of depends on the guild. Like, with that guild, too, the rules are that, because it's an abbey, that, just like when you go to some churches and things like that, there's areas you can go for the public, and then there's areas that are off limits. And a lot of times where we do that stuff, it's the area that's off limits, which, kind of does limit what outsiders outside the guild can actually do or partake in.
Well, also, like, when we came to your guild that one time, we were half invited. Well, I think they wanted one person and we brought the whole group. So it didn't go over real well. And it was hilarious and it was fun. I loved it. But I know some people were a little annoyed because they felt like they were being excluded. And I was like, it's a bunch of zealots. How would we not have been? I knew it was going to happen. And that's why Ciel was like, we need to leave or I'm going to kill someone.
Yeah, you showed up with Altmer and a Dunmer and a Orc.
We've had the past months with drama and all that. You never know what could turn into
exactly.
Like this. Bad blood.
Yeah.
And we were really cool, but I totally understood their response, and it was actually relieving because if they had just been so inclusive and let's do this, it would have been like, well, then they're not really as hardcore as they said they were.
Yeah.
So it was to me, I liked it. I thought it was hilarious. I wish we could do more interactions with them because it was fun. I enjoyed it. And I know a couple people from your guild now that I've crossed paths with at Riften and in other places. And I love that there's somebody that plays that kind of role play. But it is cliquish, but it's not really a clique.
Because because it's
restrictive by role play, not by oaths.
And the lore, it's restricted by lore. It's part of the lore,
right?
It's
part of the lore and part of the game. I expect that.
Yeah.
I mean, with our guilds being basically dark elf only, in the way the society is in the lore, we're naturally xenophobic. And I know there's arguments with the Ebonheart Pact and all that, but it doesn't make us any less xenophobic. We just have to tolerate them a little bit more.
Yeah, it's it's like the real world version of back in the day of like allying with Afghanistan against Russia or this and that. You don't like it, but for whatever reason at that moment in history, the stars aligned and that's what happened. And in ESO, at least as the lore is in this, because they had to figure out some way to make a pact that wasn't 6 individual or half a dozen races or more.
Right. Honestly, my own opinion on the Ebonheart Pact, it's not necessarily an alliance, it's a defensive pact. If one, non-aggression pact, they don't like each other. Nords, Argonians, Dunmers do not like each other at all. I mean, you have those oddballs like, I love Argonians, but
yeah,
no, most of the time it's hostilities and all that.
Yeah, and because in the other races they haven't been enslaving some of the other species like the Dunmer have, for example, that they're now allied with. They're like, I know we enslave your people, but
can we fight together now just for a little while?
Can you just keep shit out? Just keep shit from our borders. Appreciate that.
And please don't shed in the house, and we'll be fine.
We'll use the Black Marsh as a buffer gate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shithole anyway. I mean, they're the Black Marsh is the Louisiana of ESO.
Yes, it
is. Sorry for you folks in Louisiana.
Oh man,
your place is humid and miserable.
Lots of levees.
Yeah, lots of levees. Yeah, here's Daniel Tosh said, "You want some good retail advice? Don't buy a house below sea level." There you go.
It's true. But anyway,
words to live by.
Yeah, but yeah, it's and yeah, there are definitely some cliques like even within we'll use the Tribunal Guild still. The ordinators and clergy are almost their own clique, each in their ways. That they just but they're kind of a clique. They're two sides of the same coin in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And I know
I've
that
noticed that. Just the little bit I've been able to play in the guild, I've noticed that because I very seldom see any clergy.
Well, recently we began a big influx of clergy, because it used to be hopelessly lopsided, like maybe 4 ordinators to 1 priest.
Yeah, it
But
really
now
was like 70.
It's starting to get a little bit more and more even. I think it's like maybe 3 to 1, and I think it's going to increase to maybe even 1 to 1 in the future.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I just know I'm new to the guild, so I haven't seen as much. I know Monday night 2 weeks ago was the first time I was actually able to make it to the ordinator training.
Elf practice?
Mm-hmm.
But I actually saw there was clergy sitting out there watching, so I thought that was pretty cool. But other than that, I hadn't really had a lot of interaction with them.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot more, especially lately, and sometimes it does cause conflict. We've actually had quite a bit of conflict between the two because the two factions. For those of you not in ESO, that if you're not aware of all this stuff, I know we have non-ESO players and listeners, so just bear with us here. You'll still get the gist of it because it's basically that there's things like this across all MMOs, but there's conflict between the two groups. We're all in the same guild. We're all on the same side, but it's kind of like and it's still a religion, of course, and just like look at how many like use Christianity. Look how many different splits there are in that. You got the Baptists, you got the Catholics, you got the Presbyterians, you got the Presbyterians who believe that when you die, your soul gets stuck up on the roof and you can't get it down. There's all sorts of different branches out there, and they conflict sometimes.
I think a good example of that is Northern and Southern Ireland, is what the clergy and ordinators are. They just, they're not hating each other, but they're kind of
wary.
Each other.
Yeah.
Wary, yeah. Though we've been trying to patch that up because it's, sometimes it doesn't make for fun RP, and it can sometimes be very frustrating.
Yeah, and it can't. Yeah, and it definitely has. It's rubbed a few people the wrong way a couple times, especially because they don't they don't know it going in, and a lot of it I've noticed seems to be newer people, which it is. Yeah. As guilds go, it's definitely a guild with there's different guilds. There's definitely higher learning curves with some than others, and one is dogmatic and lore based as that one. It definitely has a pretty high learning curve because I know it took me several months to really get a feel for it. When I first got there, and I was there at the very beginning when the game started, but it obviously over 3 years, not the same guild as it was at that time. Some of the same people, but definitely not the same structure, and things had morphed and mutated as they always have to in order to keep a guild fresh and exciting.
Yep, exactly.
But so have you had like do you have like a single instance, like the worst or even the best example of like a clique that you've seen kind of form up?
I think it's our order, man, the Order of War.
Yeah. That's a very tight group, but we don't exclude people too, which is what I also like. I noticed that we always stand around each other, but we talk with everybody as well, because
you
as
guys
you should.
And I'll vouch for you guys because, like I said, I'm new to the guild, and my character is quiet, but no, everyone seems very, it's like, come on, you can join us, come go change clothes and let's
take
go
your armor off. You can't even
honestly, if you join a RP guild as big as ours, it's always going to be hard at first. It was always hard for me at first when I joined. I came off of like some really bad RP experiences, and I was almost done with ESO last year, around April. And after that, I just started involving myself more and more, and I got more and more comfortable with it. And it's eventually, here I am now, officer of the guild, loving every minute of being in the guild.
Apparently somebody's cracking open the beers early tonight.
That's me. It's not
You might have to mute yourself next time you do that one.
I'm sorry.
She didn't even open one for me. I mean, what kind of wife am I raising? Go get me a beer, woman.
No.
And open it off air this time.
Okay, sorry about that.
Make sure there's no fizz.
Yeah. Sorry. Totally derailed. But yeah, I definitely like that group of, it's funny too, because it's basically come up from, there was like literally nothing, when it came to war. There was like you, and I think you had a seagull.
I had
as your second in command.
My first wardinator, as we call it, was someone named Umbra, who's now our Saranami soul. Changed her name over an event that involved Ashlanders.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting that's Umbra.
She or he or I don't know. Let's
just
call it she. They. Gotta be gender friendly here, but
it.
But no, they were my first official subordinate in the Order of War, and they were awesome. Unfortunately, they have some IRL stuff going on the past couple months. I'm pretty sure Seb said he's in the army or government related. So Uncle Sam's got him.
There's not much you can do with that once you're. Yeah, we've definitely had several military people in guilds over the time, and it's like, I've got 24 hours before I got to deploy, so I'll see you guys in 6 to 8 months. And that's literally how long it is before they show back up.
Yeah, and we always had a policy in our guild because we had so many military people because we were a military guild.
Well, and when we did it too, it was during that was not too long after 9/11. So when that game came out in 2004, so the wars were ramping up and down,
Yeah,
so
and we had so many people, and so we finally came up with a policy that when they joined, we would if you're military and you don't want anybody else to know, that's fine, but just tell me. That way, if you vanish, and you didn't say anything, I'll probably just chalk it down and we won't kick you out for inactivity.
Yeah, the military people got to pass on I think it was like the 100 or 80 or 90, 120 days, and we're going to kick
90,
you out.
90 days if you got kicked, unless you were certified.
Unless you let us know in advance,
Unless you let us know in advance. If you let us know in advance, you could, stay practically forever. So.
Right.
I think there's still a few of them in there, and the guild's not even active anymore.
I've still got over 100 people in the guild. Just old people that don't come on anymore. But
she kicked my ass out. Let that tell you.
Yeah, I did.
I quit the game and she kicked me out. Bitch.
I left one of your characters in. You need to stop.
No, all of them. And then she burned them at the stake. I wasn't even there. Didn't even give permission. She's like, and we're gonna kill them all. She went all Emperor Palpatine on us. Order 66 on all of Xanus' characters. But yeah, that's...
In my defense, you said you would never play again, ever. You had deleted it and you were never coming back.
Jazz, you just need to go high ground.
Yeah. High ground.
Yeah.
But I only came back once, and it was for less than a year. And I've been, other than a special events like people passing away and things like that, I've not loaded it up again.
Yeah, no, I have been. I go in basically to see who's left the guild.
Yeah,
that's about all I'm going back for at this point, just to see who took off. And weirdly, we still have some absolutely loyal people that are still in the guild, even though it's not paid for and they can't use any of the guild amenities. In the guild, they're still there plugging away. I'm like, okay.
All right, I don't know why you're playing EQ2 anymore. They don't love you. They don't like you. All they want is your money.
Wrongway's daughter is still in there.
Is she really?
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
She's still in there, and
For those that don't know, he's actually. I think I've actually spoken with you about him, Kishmas. He was the Russian defector. I told you about that one time.
Right.
That was Wrongway. Yeah. Yeah, he was a good guy.
And he was a wonderful guy. Became friends out of game, and when he died, it was very sudden.
It was heartbreaking, and especially because we played with his daughter too, in which was just it felt awful for her.
Guy.
What's that?
Did he rush B?
Did he what? Oh, rush B!
It's just And this call's done. This
friends.
call's over. That was
good night, everyone.
Be sure to tip your waitress. But no, man, we appreciate you giving us a call. Look forward to having you always listening. And who knows what else in the future? Who knows? You never know.
Of course,
there's future things that could be happening in the future. Like if we went back to the future.
Yeah, Back to the Future.
Yeah, you don't know. I'm not saying anything, but I'm not saying that that there's voices you should probably maybe start to expect to hear a little more often in the future. Perhaps if they're not crazy shy, don't get called out on it. No, seriously, dude. Appreciate you calling in. Glad to hear what you have to say, and I'll tack at you later. Later.
See ya.
I appreciate him calling in.
Christmas. I keep thinking it's Christmas, but it's Kishmas.
Kishmas. I assume that's how it's pronounced. Now that you say that, I've never asked him.
We probably were pronouncing it wrong the whole time.
It could be Kish my ash. I don't know.
That's funny. That was hilarious.
Yeah. I'm glad someone thought so. Even if it was a fake laugh, I'll take it and appreciate it. But, okay, so... we kind of went over the bad ones.
Okay. He just put it in Twitch TV, but it's like cheeky breaky. Wait a minute, no.
I don't think that's.
I don't think you're so adorable. I swear to God.
That's why I love you. I'm pretty sure KISHMASS does not translate into cheeky breaky. Oh, well. Well, Kishmas, guess what new nickname you've just earned, Cheeky Breaky? He's a cheeky little bastard, isn't he? Yeah. She had to mute herself. She's laughing so hard. That's why I love you, baby. You're the pretty and the silly one. I just get to be the mean one, and Jazz is the pretty and the smart one.
I think I'm gonna go for smart and leave out the pretty. But
take the compliment, you filthy whore.
Yeah, thank you. One of us has got to be right.
That's right.
They say what was that one saying? It said 1 out of every 7 women is a whore. So if you have a group of 7 friends and you don't know who the whore is, it's probably you.
It's probably you. That's right. That's right.
That's good.
All right.
I'm Blanche, by the way. In the scheme of things, I'll probably be
Oh,
Blanche
wow. Bringing out the Golden Girls. Wow.
Yeah, I'm old.
Blanche. You're the Blanche. I want to be the cranky old lady with the white hair.
Actually, although I like to see myself as Blanche, let's be honest, I'm probably going to be the cranky old lady from Italy. So.
Yeah, I don't remember I don't remember any of their names. I remember that there was that one chick that looked like a dude.
Begins with an X. I mean S. Not Sylvia.
Sylvia was one of them. Okay.
Sophia.
Sophia.
Yeah.
Sophia was the old one. Dorothy was the one that you think looked like a man.
Sib, baby, I'm sorry to say this, but you are definitely Betty White. You are definitely the Betty White of the group.
Just smack him.
Oh, come on. Betty White is fucking awesome.
She was. And you know
she still is. She's great.
Yes.
I want to be like her when I'm an old lady.
Yeah, you're never going to be an old lady.
What? That's not what the talking points on MSNBC tell me.
Okay.
I can be whatever I want. If that guy can be a Filipino woman and he's as white as I am and 5 times as ugly, I can be anything I want. I want to be Betty White.
Okay, you can be Betty White.
Wait.
I'm gonna be
Everybody
Sophia.
wants to be Betty White.
No.
Yes. I'll take the money.
Yeah, well, no kidding.
Anyway, so cliques. What was our topic? Oh, yeah, cliques.
Yeah. So how do you shift them into a guild building experience? I think the way that we handled it with our officers works the best. Casually, carefully, kind of shoving them out of their order and encouraging them to branch out and make RP away from their little group. But I've never had a whole lot of luck until something happened and everything blew apart for a while, and then it seemed to fix itself. But if there's anything that I've noticed about cliques, is that they have a very short lifespan. So
yeah, especially the tight knit one. Well, because all it takes, they're usually fairly small, and all it takes is one or two people to go, and the whole thing's over. And then you're screwed.
It seems to me that particularly when you have it forming around ERP relationship, RP, who's scratching who's whatever. When you have it formed that way, it's not very long before there's usually one person they're all competing with, and it just kind of turns into a big brouhaha, and it turns into drama, and then it melts down, and then you start over. And I was happy that we only had that happen once, and it was handled well. And I don't think we lost one officer out of it. So I was pleased that it went the way it went. So, but I'm welcome to everybody's ideas of what they would do, because there's days as a guild leader I just kind of scratch my head as I watch cliques forming and think, oh, this is going to last about 6 to 8 weeks, and then it's going to blow apart, and I'm going to have to handle it.
I kick them all out instantly. The second I see it happening, they're gone.
You do not.
Yeah. Hey, you're being rude. You're forming a clique. You're out of here. There's no in between. You're either friendly to the guild or you're against the guild.
So you act like a cult leadership, I see.
I'm not saying I'm a cult leader. I'm just saying try the Kool-Aid. It's delicious. It's cherry flavored. Everybody loves cherry flavored Kool-Aid. We even put sugar in it. It's none of this modern hippie shit where I don't even know what makes that Kool-Aid sweet anymore. God help you. You're probably destroying your liver, but that's beside the point. No, for real. Honesty sucks. I mean, but it is bringing the light of that, just being, and you don't have to be a dick about it. I mean, I know I am kind of for the most part, and I will be if you're going to reciprocate it that way. Yeah, I heard you. But if you're going to take it that way and you're going to get defensive, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and just let you be, I'm not going to let you sit here and bash on people for what is actually your failure as a person, as a role player. And like you said, sometimes it happens because it just happens. It's a slow thing. It's a tight group of friends. I've told that story when I was out wanting to role play with Vinka, who is a good friend and like a role play buddy. And then that other Red Wing or what's her face came up, and I was being shitty. That was me, at like the worst of being in a bad clique in a way. It just wasn't that's not doing it right. You should have just been honest, especially in character and out of character, instead of being like a backstabby little bitch like I was doing. But
I have a hard time seeing you that way. I never saw that side of you. So
it was early on. I was still with the Vagabond Knights. I was still learning the role play ropes and things like that. And that's the thing. Again, never ERP'd, but I just really liked role playing with Vinka and Shard and some of those people from that time period. And we had stuff we had wanted. We're discussing and talking about and training and things like that. And her intervening would have gotten in the way of that. So, instead of being cool about it, I was a total dick, and it's not the way it should be handled. You can be truthful, but you don't have to be an asshole about it. There's good and there's bad ways to go about, like, hey, listen, we've noticed that you're kind of excluding everybody else in the guild basically just for this tiny little group of people, and that's fine, but you need to try to help branch out, especially if you're an officer and things like that. Officers, it's all the more important. Officers have to be there for everybody. They can I'm not saying they can't have their friends, they can't have their favorites. We all have favorites. These aren't our children. We're allowed to have people that we like and people that we don't like. There's definitely people in all the guilds I'm in right now that I actually role play with and pay attention. There's ones that I really, really enjoy. There's ones that, I'm acquainted with and I think they're good people. And then there's ones that I just basically avoid because I think they're assholes. And I'm sure I'm on one of those three lists too. It's just human nature. You're not going to get along with everybody. If it did,
and human nature is to form cliques, to form small groups.
We form communities. Yeah, so and sometimes and it just happens, and I know for the longest time I've been very, very careful. Anytime there's especially when I'm on my characters around, if there's a new recruit or a new novice, I go out of my way for Tarvala to, at the very least, introduce herself and say like, so why are you here, or how'd you get here, or where'd you come from? Just something to try to get the ball rolling, maybe, and maybe that might be all I get out of them. And, if they're a closed off person, sometimes it works real well and they'll kind of spill their guts. And other times I don't get much out of them. It's like, but that's on them at that point. At least I made the effort to try to welcome the new guy in. And I really think more people should do that. And a lot of people, they will. I know sometimes circumstances aren't always the best for it. If there's something dramatic going on in your guild or in your role play at the moment, you just can't get around to that. So you might have to hit them up the next time you see them, or it might be even days or weeks later because you guys just don't see each other. But it never hurts to try. And I know I personally always try to make that effort as best I can. And if it doesn't work out, then like I said, at least I did what I could do. When it comes to breaking those up, sometimes you just have to point it out to people, like, hey, just try to interact with people a little bit more. If your character, and if the character just doesn't do that kind of thing, then if you're there, at least, like, acknowledge that you saw them in an emote, like looks at them and then looks away. Or you don't have to be like, and so here's the history of my life, stranger whom I just met. I'm an assassin and also a werewolf, and my favorite color is blue.
Yeah, want to see y'all slowly creep away from them.
Right. And you could actually physically see her skin crawl at the...
Yeah. I have to leave now. Sorry, there's something on the fire somewhere.
But even if somebody is emoting around you, especially we're talking more for guilds at this point, but for guilds especially, you've got to at least acknowledge when someone's around, even if it is just a slight nod. Which is a joke in almost every guild / nod, it's just that most people don't even put the extra effort, like nods vigorously, and you just look like an asshole. Like, are you okay? No, I just can't stop nodding vigorously. Just acknowledging you. But just little interactions like that really help break up that feeling that, especially for new people, because let's be honest, for the most part, new people are often the ones that feel left out and often feel like there's cliques. Not always, because there are people that are just freaking weird and they just see what they want to see around every corner.
Yes. I mean, you, as a guild leader, I've come across you. I couldn't get RP in this guild. I'm leaving because there's too many. There's this clique I can't get in, and it's like you log on 4 times a week. You never talk to anybody. You go out into the world. You post, "Is there any RP anywhere?" We tell you we're RPing at X, and you never show up. How is that a clique? Well, I didn't feel welcome. Because why? Well, you didn't invite me.
And really,
you can hear the black squiggle mark above my head at that point. It's just like, what?
You really invite I mean, I say that, and it's hard for somebody like me to invite myself. And I've learned over the years of doing this, my short years, compared to you and Ashid, that if you want to be a part of it, you really do need to just invite yourself.
Yes. Or if they tell you where it is, that to most people, if they say, "Where are you role playing?" and you say, "We're role playing here," as long as you have access to there, why can't you go? And if they're not saying you can't, then you can. And I think most people, particularly role players who've been role players for a long time, especially people that are seen as being in cliques, forget to say you're welcome to come. It is really an easy thing to say, and I think even I forget to say you're welcome to join us, so that people will come play, not just feel left
and sometimes
out.
It does. It happens naturally, and and because I've been there a few times, and I noticed you guys are all at a place, and I'm like, well, what's going on? Can I come? Am I allowed? I mean, I know the answer is I could just fucking show up whenever I wanted because you can't stop me. Unless of course you've hit the house gap, and then I can't get in.
You'll just have to keep your eyes closed to what you walk in on. If you just show up.
Yeah. But whenever and that's just part of.
Man.
Yeah, it's okay.
I felt that execution.
But and that's one of those things of just using the MOTD of the day. Little things like that can actually help make a guild not feel like a clique.
Really hard because I think the reason I got out of the habit of it and still don't do it as very often because most people will log in and they won't even look at it. So even if it's in the message of the day, they don't look, so they don't see it, and then they're asking you what's going on, and you say, "Look at the message of the day." What? And so I just got out of the habit of doing it and just kind of resolved to just tell people as we're role playing at something. And I think at this point, sometimes I can be very, I'm kind of not burnt out, but I expect people to RP for themselves. And if they don't want to join me or they don't want to come and participate, that's fine. I don't care.
Yeah, you used to have a real bad problem of always trying to make sure that you went. Yes. In my eyes, you actually went more than what you should have, and to the point of stressing yourself out. Yes. And that's not the way to do that.
Everyone, and I included everyone, and I drug people in, and I talked to them for days ahead of time and said, "What do you want to do in this RP? Tell me, and I'll make sure that you're included." I really went out of my way to include people in RP, and I always got burned. And
it can be good for some people. Just need a little help, a little push. It can be good, but it also that's a fucking lot of time, a time which you no longer have, too, by the way.
I don't have that time anymore. I used to. I don't anymore. So now it's more, this is what we're doing. This is the roleplay situation. You either show up or you don't.
Yeah.
And I'm going to kill my dog.
Go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and hit Delamus. He said they would call in, but they don't have a mic, so I'm just gonna the RuneScape actually Delamus it was before. EQ was the first MMO for me, and I know for the gals probably much later than that. But so I'm just going to have to take your word on that. But he was, or she, Delamus was saying the thing is that for RuneScape roleplay, instead of making a character in the game and then like role-playing them, you had your character in-game and you'd create a bunch of characters, and you could easily change your gender, skin color, clothing, whatever, to any character you were playing, and that meant that characters were considered expendable in RuneScape, and consent was basically a taboo word, and it would I could absolutely see that would tear the community apart, and also dice rolls were taboo as well. If you did RP combat, you just described every action, and the loser just fucking died.
I've had so many people tell me, particularly lately, that dice are horrible and you shouldn't use them. And that right there is an explanation about why I use dice, because I've seen that so much.
Right.
Without it, they're like, it's not fair that my character is raw and you can just come in.
I am Edgelord Cloud Strife and my father was Sephiroth. I can destroy this planet if I so choose. What are you?
And that level 4 is going to come in and beat me? I don't think so. And it's like, well, actually, yes, because even in reality, when you get in a fist fight with someone,
you never know.
Be really, really good, and somebody can just get lucky. And it happens a lot more than people realize. When you're doing fist fights, you miss once, you could, you punch at somebody, you miss, you've put your body.
Well, and you can just as easily break your own hand on somebody's forehead or jaw as you will break the jaw. That shit happens, and that's why when it comes to stuff like that, and probably not exactly a clique, but like, freeform roleplay, like what he's talking about people were doing, I only do that with consent, like Kishmas earlier, and you, Jazz, or Sib, I know you guys, people, and Travis, there's several people I would do that with. Somebody I just met, I might, if I've heard good things about them or somebody else will vouch for them, but I will tell them up front, like, listen, if this starts to go, like, you start telling me what happens to my character, this is going to stop before it starts, and that's where dice rolls, right, and that's where dice rolls come, that's where dice rolls come in to help, or / random, if you're, unlike ESO, if your game's smart enough to put it in, like every game since, forever, except for some reason Zoss decided not to do that. Dice rolls are the great equalizer because, like you said, and it does kind of come down to emotes. Everything needs to be an attempt. Everything can happen, but and I don't mind, like like Delamus is saying, like how momentum works and things like that. It can, like stuff like that can, especially in a free flow role play, like you can use that stuff a little bit, but you have to, you basically have already gotten consent to, like, okay, there's going to be some give and take. I'm going to take some hits. You're going to take some hits. And basically whoever can outright the other person in a way is probably going to win. Or if, like, every time I fight Roger, Turval is getting better and better every time. She gets more hits in. She's doing way more damage. But she's 25. He's way older, and he's been probably in the ordination far longer than most of her life even. So of course he's going to be better. He's just got more experience. So I have no problem losing to somebody that's an established character that I know is actually out of character, is a cool guy, and eventually one day she will beat him, I'm sure. It's just I like the anticipation of going up to that as much as I think I'm going to enjoy the day when she actually 102. So yeah, he's only 70 7 years older than she is. He's got a little more experience. But I look forward to that stuff.
We were in EQ, and we'd group up, and we would just decide who was going to win in the beginning. And, if Xanis was badass or whatever, Vaca always lost because she's an assassin. So, in a face-to-face fight, there's a pretty good chance she's going to lose against a monk, for example.
Yeah.
But like you and Greiger or you and Triton, you guys would just decide, or you just roll once. Yeah,
and it was just kind of because they were all really good and strong. They just had different strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes things just happened.
Yeah,
it was.
And I really liked that we could do that, but I'm not going to do that with someone I don't know. And I'm not getting it. Every time I have ever gotten into a battle situation with someone without dice, it ends up being I'm an edgelord and I win. And always I can't explain how many times, and while there has been a couple of times that have surprised me that it didn't end that way, 99% of the time it doesn't work, because
and the whole thing ends up not having happened at all because
like he said, you'd have to plan the whole thing out in the first place, and it's not open role play anymore. That's
just scripted.
And then it's no fun at all for me. So I like dice because it randomizes.
And that's in that combat stuff. That's actually part of where cliques form from, because you are comfortable. Like, I would consider like he was saying, the war ordinators in that group, they are a tight knit group. Now, technically, by the definition, they actually aren't a clique, though, because they do include everybody else. They are more than happy to fight anybody or talk to anybody or drink or talk or, anything like that. And, of course, to be in a clique, you got to have the things but not include others. So they're not so much a clique as they are just a tight-knit group. And, like they're buddies, it's that war buddy bond kind of thing that they have in character. Out of character, dude, whatever, bring it on. We want to talk to everybody. We're not, they've got their thing because their lives, they're in the same, basically the same squad. So they've got that squad thing. But when it comes to the whole division, they're still part of the group. They still want to be there. So that's the big difference between the clique and a tight knit group is, you can allow people to come into it, come and go even, and if somebody leaves, it's cool, whatever.
That's why I think that it's not really a clique unless there's exclusion. You really can't call them a clique unless there's exclusion.
Right. It's just that it gets, and it is a term that gets widely overutilized. It doesn't mean what it should mean. You didn't include
my character that you just met yesterday? You're a clique.
Right.
And that's bad. That's bad when people, because it happens. They'll go in there and they'll be like, well, they didn't talk to me. So, and they're like, well, this is the first time we met you. So, of course we didn't talk to you.
Yeah. And all you did was stand in a corner and not emote a single thing. So, of course we didn't talk to you. That's you not on
initiate any.
The onus isn't on us. It's on you.
Yeah.
But, and that's, and of course, when you get accused of being a clique, that's one of the things that makes it hard to talk about too. Is because a lot of times when you're accused of it, it's not actually the way it is. It's definitely, usually, it's not the way people perceive it either. So a lot of times, like I very hard try not to form cliques in the best of my ability. but I definitely do have a core people that I like. So when you've got that going on and someone says, well, you're a clique, it kind of puts you on the defensive. It kind of pisses you off. I mean, I know it does for me. It's like, no, I'm not. You're just, I don't know who you are, and you never interacted with me. The role play is a two-way street. It's interaction at the best, at its best. It can't go one person being the dark-clothed edgelord that broods in the corner, and then you expecting me to constantly be like, so, what's up, buddy? Did you like, how's it going? Did you kill anybody today? Okay, well, you're just going to sit there and stare at me with your eyes and grunt, so I'm going to go not where you're at because you're boring as fuck. Yeah. Part of that has to come on the person from on the outside, too, to make a little bit of effort, and the people on the inside to leave the door open and not kick it closed behind them.
And I will say, if you're in a clique or you have just a core group of people you RP with, and like you have the leader, like you guys were talking about earlier, you shouldn't let them decide who you're going to RP with, because you might be missing out on some great friends, people that will, be there, you can't let somebody else determine.
Yeah, give you the blacklist.
Yeah, because that irritates me when people do that, because you're going to miss out on some wonderful people just because they say they don't like them.
Yeah, and I know, that's actually I only say blacklist because there was something going on last night which we missed because we were out doing family stuff, but there's a blacklist of things, and I always considered, because Jazz had one too. It's basically it's always a warning, like, dude, okay, like, here's what this person has done in the past. Be very, very careful with them,
Yeah, we never. We've had.
You can do what you want, but if you do it and something happens, you are on your own. You are not representing the guild.
Jazz you didn't have a black list.
She had a warning
people
list.
She was cautious with.
Yeah,
I had a list that said these are people that we will not do a guild RP with. It says we will not involve the whole guild.
It was a guild blacklist, not an individual one.
If you want to RP with them, and people always misunderstood that, they were like, "Well, I RP with this person all the time, so I can't be in your guild." No,
that's fine.
You're welcome to RP with this person all you want.
If he kidnaps you, you're on your own.
It wasn't really a black list, but I know in EQ2, towards the end, I realized there really were blacklists.
Oh, there's a lot. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of them. I was on half of them. So
I know, and that was just stupid. But no, I don't consider what you did, Jazz, as a blacklist. I just
had a warning list. We had
who you would not personally RP with.
Now I will admit here, because that time is over. As officers, we had people on a list in the officer area of our site only,
and still do. Yeah, because these people they've. And a lot of times, the reason I say blacklist is because these people doing stuff in character or out of OOC in the chat, it like you guys were saying, it doesn't really hurt you. Some of these people, the reason they're on, and I would call it's an actual blacklist. It's like, listen, it's a guild blacklist. This person has physically threatened people in the real world. They've jumped out of the game and into the real world.
Yes.
And that is when, you can't, as a guild, you can no longer have any dealings with those people. And you have to let your guild members know that, like, listen, if you do this, that's fine. You're totally on your own. And anything that happens with this guy, we don't want to hear about it. We don't want to know about it. It is between you and that individual, period.
Yeah. And that was hard for some people to understand, and they were like, well, what did he do? I can't tell you that, because it just makes it privacy.
It just makes it that much more, and for some of it was highly personal stuff too.
Yeah. This was, because just for the officers, we had a list of people that we agreed, because they were officers, not to bring into the guild because they had a problem with this person. And the only thing that I asked of my officers was to explain to me, if not in officer channel, what they had done and why you didn't want them in the guild to begin with. And as long as it was substantial, they could go on our inner guild blacklist, because we would say if they apply to the guild,
they're not coming in. Right. And it's not, and like, well, that's being a clique. No, that's there's a difference between
That's
being a clique and
ourselves.
protecting yourself as an individual.
Yeah.
And
I would like to point out that we had a couple times when they were on a tune that we didn't, because in EQ, you didn't have account names. You just had tunes. So if somebody rolled a new tune, and you didn't know, really, what are you doing in here?
Yeah.
Right, and that's the thing too. That's why these people typically got on that list, is because they would continue to try to keep coming into the guild, even though they hated you and we didn't like them, which makes no sense why you would do that.
Yeah, they hated me. I was on their blacklist, but they would join the guild just for the sole purpose of getting access to the guild and saying
causing drama.
Just causing drama and problems. And so we had a blacklist of sorts. And we did have a list of people that we would say, okay, this person is on our guild blacklist. You can RP with them all you want, but please don't bring them into the guild. And that was as far as I ever went, except for people like He Who Shall Not Be Named, who, published my personal address and my personal information on the internet. People like that, I tell people, if you role play with this person, you're out.
Yeah. And that's very specific, very specific. I mean, when you try to get people hurt, and what there are lines that it's insane to even think of, but we have seen it happen where people try to physically do harm to a person because of what happens in a video game. I mean, you see it in those Korean and Chinese internet cafes. I saw a video the other day where somebody was playing PUBG. And the guy was cheating, and another guy came up behind him and fucking just punched him in the side of the head repeatedly because they don't like cheaters. And I trust me, I don't like cheaters either. No, I'm gonna punch somebody in the side of the head. At least not for that. And that's when it gets some serious stuff. But I think that should just about wrap us up on cliques. I think not everything is a clique. I think we went over this pretty well. Has anybody got any final thoughts or anything you want to kind of wrap it up with a nice little bow at the end here?
I think that as long as guild leaders, we are open and honest with our members. And if we see something that we think is going to be a problem, that we talk to them, or if we've decided it's not worth saying anything, accepting that at that point, it then becomes your own fault if something bad happens.
Yeah.
And move on from there. I don't worry that much about cliques anymore because I know that they have a habit of dissolving in 6 to 8 weeks anyway. So I don't usually get too upset about it. And I consider it to be kind of a litmus test, because that means that once their clique falls apart, they'll probably leave and then I won't have to deal with them anyway. So same with people that are a problem. I do the same thing. I don't generally kick people out for being a problem. I simply watch and wait, and they're usually gone within a couple weeks. So that's my way of handling it. But I know for some other people, they don't want the fallout, and I understand that. I've just learned the hard way that there's always going to be fallout, and I just don't want to do it.
Yep. No, that says it up. You got anything, Sib?
No, not really. Just if you think somebody's in a clique, but you don't know for sure, just try to RP with them. You'll figure it out pretty quick. Because if they look like a clique and that you approach them and try to RP with them, and they, RP back, then they're probably not a clique. They're probably just,
they might have just not seen it. Yeah.
And send a tell. Hey, I just RP'd something. I don't know if you missed it or not. And if they don't respond, then they probably are a clique, and you're better off without them.
Yeah, you don't want to even bother with it, really. So, I think that's well said there.
Yep.
So
I forgot to do my Sib silly, sometimes serious.
Oh, yeah. It's only it's because we had that whole extra week. We're kind of,
Yeah, I was, since I wasn't on a lot. But I will say, Cersei said it was kind of depends on the mood.
What was the survey?
What was the question?
Oh, sorry. Thank you, too. That's why I have you around in my clique. It says, what is your favorite all-time MMO?
Oh, okay. That's right.
Do your thing in, RP. And Cersei's was depends on the mood. But later she said Champions Online. Miss Jazz was EQ2, which I can agree. And I think that would be mine. And then Razor's Edge, his was WoW. Or,
World of
I'm
Warcraft,
pretty sure.
Yeah.
but I didn't get an answer from Ashen, so
I don't have time for surveys. I was off role playing with my clique.
Says?
What?
I said survey says.
That's
Are
right.
we going to
Probably.
Survey says copyright. No.
Yeah.
It probably would be EQ2 at this point. Although ESO, I'm having a great deal of fun with it, and I really am enjoying it. EQ2, just the length of time I spent in it, and the hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of role play I've done in it. It's going to be hard to overcome that for any other MMO, especially in just less than a year's time, like ESO has been now. So right now, yeah, EQ2, I'd have to say. There's been a lot of other good ones. Galaxies was also probably second.
It's favorite of all time.
And then on top of that, then third was probably Matrix Online.
Cuts off his mic.
I'm in control here. You'll do what I say. But anyway, so that's episode 23 of RP MMO Radio. We do appreciate everybody joining in. Of course, go ahead and visit us at Facebook, RPMMO Radio, Twitter, Instagram. Go to our website, www.rpmmoradio.com, for all the latest news. Put a /Discord on that if you want to join our Discord channel and ever call in on our show. It will only be 1 week until our next episode, since this one was a little after the fact. So tune in a week's time. It should still be on Saturday at 7. And we're going to discuss a few things coming up in the new year and some changes to the show, which hopefully everyone will enjoy. And I know we are all really excited for it and looking forward to.
Don't forget, it's supposed to be a year-end recap.
That's right.
Yes.
A year-end review. So, with that, I am Ashen Phoenix. And of course, Sib and Jazz are always with me. And tune in next time when we'll go over why halflings should only be allowed to be in their own clique. Next time on RPMMO Radio. Good night, everybody. The thoughts and opinions of those on RPMMO Radio are just that and should not be taken as the gospel truth. Music, as always, is provided by Husky by the Geek. Visit him at youtube.com/huskybythegeek to hear all his great rock covers of video game and original music. Take care.